Thank you for that. Can I welcome members of the public from who reside in Bartley Green Ward? This is the first Bartley Green Forum that we have with technicalities, and we'll see how we progress this evening. We have got quite a lot on the agenda, but we're very fortunate. We have a number of people that are going to speak on various things, and I'll mention those as we go along. But can I also mention that it's being recorded, and if anyone wants the information, they can get it for future use. Thank you. Here we go. Well, the first item to discuss, because the minutes are considerably old, so we'll miss those. We've got Rachel Chapman, whose presence this evening is to give us a rundown on the COVID-19. And this is just for information. Please don't ask technical questions, because she's doing her best, and I know she will try very hard to satisfy all people's interest. Rachel, you're on.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Certainly what I can do is give you sort of a quick update, and then if there are any questions, I will do my best to answer them. There might be some that I can't answer, in which case I'll take them away and get the answers and then feedback, if that's all right. So in terms of the update, as I'm sure you're all aware, we've now just gone past that first year anniversary of the first lockdown, and it certainly feels like a long time that we've been going through this. What we're seeing now is, as we've been going through this lockdown, that the number of cases has reduced dramatically from the peak that we had just after Christmas. And alongside this, we're also seeing a reduction in hospital admissions and a reduction in the number of deaths. So really good news from that point of view, and rates really coming down. International evidence is emerging, which is showing us that vaccination, as well as preventing serious illness and death, is also having a positive impact on transmission. So will hopefully help to stop the spread of COVID. And again, as I'm sure you're all aware, we're now working through the national roadmap to bring us out of all of the restrictions. Justin, our Director of Public Health, has very much described that as dependent on the data, not just the dates. I know we've got dates set, but it's absolutely crucial that we see continued good uptake of the vaccination, that the pressure on the NHS continues to reduce, that we don't start to see an increase in hospital admissions again, that case rates still continue to remain low, and that we don't see the emergence of new variants. So the coming out of lockdown is obviously dependent on a lot of different factors. In terms of what's happening in Birmingham at the moment, our latest 7-day case rate is about 70 cases per 100,000 population. And that's come down from 78 for the previous week. So it has been reducing. The rate of decline has slowed down a little bit, but it's still going in the right direction. And then when we compare ourselves to other local authorities in England, we're actually now the 60th highest. We were for quite a long period right up there in the local authorities with the highest rate. So it's really good that our rates have come down this much. Where we are still seeing spread, so we are still getting new cases and we are still seeing spread, and this is still through usually household or social interactions or workplaces. We are seeing a little bit of spread through schools, but not dramatically so. Obviously, when the schools went back and they started testing children more, we did see an increase, as we would expect to, because if you test more, you are going to find more cases. So there is a little bit of spread, but nothing particularly to worry about. In terms of hospital admissions, we're now down to, last week it was between 12 and 22 new cases a day at university hospitals in Birmingham, which has come down significantly. But I think it's worth noting we are still seeing people being admitted to hospital with it, so we absolutely still have to follow the guidance. I've got the data, the local data for Bartley Green. So for the most recent 7 days, your rate is just under 31, so 30.6 per 100,000, which is quite a lot lower than Birmingham. So in terms of cases, then you are 49th out of our 69 wards, and in terms of rates, you're actually 63rd out of our 69 wards. So really good news locally in terms of the lower rates. And the other thing just to mention, I'll come back to this, you have 15 COVID champions, so I'll come back to that in a minute. Just to flag, in terms of testing for COVID, we've got now, there's 2 different testing programs running. So I just thought it'd be useful just to touch on these. So we have the PCR testing and the lateral flow testing. Now, both of them, it's exactly the same process in that it's a swab up the nose and the back of the throat. Anybody who's got symptoms of COVID needs to get a PCR test. And these are the ones that you either book in and go to a test centre, or you order a test kit from home, you get the swab done and it's sent off to the labs. And it takes a day or 2 to run through the labs, and you get the result back. And that's because these are really sensitive tests, and that's why we use them for people who've got symptoms, so we can absolutely find everybody who's got COVID. The other type of test, the lateral flow test, is for people who haven't got symptoms. And what lateral flow does, it's the one that gives you a test result within 30 minutes. It's not as sensitive as PCR, but because it's very quick, it's very good at finding people who are infectious but don't know about it. And that's why we're rolling out the lateral flow tests. It's in schools and through workplaces, so that people who haven't got any symptoms, but they have got COVID, can be found quite easily, and then they can self-isolate. And it's about 1 in 3 of the cases of COVID don't actually have any symptoms, so they wouldn't otherwise know about it and at risk of spreading it to others. So the lateral flow test is really important for, as I say, people who feel fine, but just to make sure that they are not carrying COVID. This has been rolled out through schools. Now the secondary schools are going back, so all secondary children are offered the test twice a week, as well as the staff. And then in primary schools, it's the staff that are being offered the test. And then anybody who's got children at school can also order test kits to do themselves at home. So we're encouraging any parents with children at school to do the tests at home as well, because as I say, what this does is pick up COVID before people perhaps know about it. So it means we can get people isolated and help to stop the spread. So that's the update in terms of testing. Then moving on to the vaccine, I'm sure you've seen the news many times about the success of the vaccination programme, and certainly the rollout across the UK is really, really good. We've now hit more than half of the adult population, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. The prioritisation has been on the groups who are most likely to become very ill with COVID and most likely to be hospitalised or die from COVID, which is why it started with the oldest populations first and then gradually working down. In terms of vaccination rates in Bartley Green, so I've got the data up to the beginning of this week. And your rates of vaccination are really, really good. The uptake is really good. So in terms of those age 80 and over, just over 90% of these have been done. Looking at those over 75, it's actually 94%. Those over 70, nearly 93%. And then sort of coming down, over 65s is 87%. Over 60s is 84%, over 55s is 76%, and over 50s is 67%. All of those percentages are higher than than Birmingham as a whole. So really good uptake of vaccination. Obviously, not everybody is taking it up, and the really key message here is if there's anybody who initially, when they were first offered it, wasn't sure about whether to get vaccinated or not, and has now decided that they do want to, please get in touch with your GP. It's definitely not too late. So if you've had the offer and for whatever reason not be able to take it up, please get in touch with your GP, and they'll be able to sort that out for you. We do know that some groups in our communities are less likely to take up the vaccine, particularly some of our African and Black, other ethnic communities, and some of the Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities. So anybody in those communities, or if you know anybody in those communities, if you could please sort of continue to encourage them to take up the vaccine. It's a really effective way of helping to stop them from getting ill, and stop the spread of COVID. We will all eventually get the 2 doses of vaccine. Our Director of Public Health describes the first dose as like doing your GCSEs, and your immune system remembers it, but then the second dose is like your A-levels, so that your immune system remembers it much, much better. So please go for your second dose, which should be about 12 weeks after your first one. But I think the other key message is that as good as the vaccine is, no vaccine is 100% effective, and the COVID vaccine is exactly the same. It has a really good effect, but it won't be 100% effective. So particularly while we've still got COVID circulating in our community, it's really important that everybody still follows the hands, face and space guidance. So the social distancing, wash your hands frequently, and wear a face covering when you're out and about, because that just gives you that extra protection, so we can do the most that we can to stop it from spreading. I mentioned earlier about the COVID champions, so you've got 15 in Bartley Green. Our target across the whole of Birmingham is to have 1,500. We are more than happy if anybody else wants to sign up to this. So our COVID champions, really what they do is empower themselves and others to stay as safe as possible during this pandemic. And by signing up, you get reliable, sort of useful updates, so any changes to national guidance, new announcements, useful information on how to stay safe. You get access to exclusive webinars with topic experts, and you can ask questions directly of the public health team. And we use this very much as a two-way conversation, so you can ask us questions, but also give us information about feedback you're getting from people, what you're seeing out and about, so that we've also got that opportunity to find out more about what's going on. So if anybody's interested in being a COVID champion, just please let us know. That would be great. And then I think if I can just sort of finish with a key message this week, as we know, we're working on this roadmap out of lockdown, and as we start to come out of it, so from Monday, up to 6 people or 2 households can meet outside, it's really important that we still follow all of the rules, even if, as I say, even if you've been vaccinated. So especially the social distancing. By staying 2 meters apart, you really do reduce the risk of spreading COVID or picking it up from anybody else. And the other thing is, please just stay outside. So that the coming out of lockdown, that first step is meeting up but outside. And by being outside, we know the risk of catching it is so much lower. As soon as people go inside, it's much more confined, more likely to get closer together, and much greater risk of catching it. So if you are meeting up with others, please do it outside. I say stay 2 meters apart, and then that way we'll prevent a surge in cases as we start to come out of lockdown. by doing this, hopefully we'll be able to continue on that roadmap and get back to something a little bit closer to normal. So that's it from the update. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much for that. If anyone wishes to ask a question, could you please raise your hand on the top of the screen, which is a yellow covered thing, and I'll call you in. Before I do that, Rachel, the figures are very encouraging, and very encouraging. Can I, for Bartley Green, because that's our priority, of course, can I ask whether those figures include King Edward's Five Ways School? I believe today they've closed.
So the figures are actually based on who lives in Bartley Green. So any cases that are associated with a school or a workplace will be linked with the postcodes that the individuals live at. So the figures that you get are for people who live here. So it wouldn't include the school per se from that point of view, unless the individuals live specifically in Bartley Green. So if you've got people who travel from outside of Bartley Green, they wouldn't be counted within that. Okay,
that's most helpful. Thank you very much. Has anyone got a question for Rachel, please?
Councillor David Bolas has got his hand up.
I can't see a hand.
Oh, I can see a hand on my screen. David has got his hand up.
I've got you. Yes. You've gone again. Okay. David, do you want to speak? He's changed his mind.
Haven't.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Councillor. Hello, Rachel. Good evening to you both. That was very good, all the news about the COVID in Birmingham. But like Councillor Lyons, I'm just a bit concerned about the Bartley Green situation at Five Ways School. Are you operating a track and trace of all of these students and the teachers who have been have caught the coronavirus, and what are your long-term plans to try and reduce it down to nothing for the school?
So I can't talk specifically about the situation at that school, but in any of these situations, and we've dealt with COVID cases in a number of schools across Birmingham, anybody who tests positive, the information is automatically entered into the National Test and Trace system. So any positive cases are given the advice to isolate, as well as anybody else in their family, and they are then the school and the family will work together in terms of contact tracing to identify anybody that they've had contact with. I know schools have done a lot of work to work out the bubbles. So in terms of who students sit near and who they spend break times or lunch times with, so that they can isolate the right individuals. As I say, this now has been going on for months. When the schools went back in September, there was a huge amount of work around this. So that is the way that it's done, and it's done any time there's a case in any school, and the same if there's a case in any workplace or in a care home. So that's how the system works for that.
Thank you, David. Are you content with that answer from Rachel?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Rachel, thank you very much indeed. I think the low number of questions reflects the good news that you've given us this evening. So if you do come back again, and I hope that you don't need to come back again, bring more.
I will do my best. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you very much indeed. Safe.
Thank you.
Oh, you are at home. It's a safe journey home, but you are already there.
I am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is a census, the 2021 census, and we've got Alison Brinkworth, who's joined us, and I'm sure it'll be an interesting presentation. Thank you for joining us this evening, Alison.
No problem. Thank you everyone for having me here today. Just really because, as you're probably all aware, Census Day was Sunday that's just gone, and hopefully most of you have filled out your census. But I'm here to really say what's happening now. So even though Census Day is over, if you haven't had time to fill in your census form yet, then you still can do it. So don't panic, and we've got lots of help available to you. And if, just say, you ordered a paper copy and it hadn't arrived yet, then you can still fill it in and return it to us, because what we really want is as many people as possible to have filled it in, because the information helps bring investment and public services to your community. So all the information will be based on your circumstances as of March 21st. But if you fill it in this week or next week and return it to us, that's fine. So there was a lot of, you might have seen the news, a lot of things about, you know, there's £1,000 fine that people face if they don't fill it in, but that didn't stand from like immediately after the 21st. We've got a few weeks. You'll see our staff and our team of field staff actually out and about, and they'll be giving a friendly knock on the door to people to ask if they need help, and pointing them in the right direction of all the sort of support that's available. They'll have like, you'll see high-vis jackets. They've got their census ID passes, and they'll never ask anybody for money or any sort of really personal information. So that's just something to be aware of, but they will be around, and they're all sort of following COVID safety precautions. They've got masks, they've got hand sanitizer, they're keeping their distance, and they won't actually fill out a census form on the doorstep, but they will be able to give you phone numbers where somebody can help you if you haven't got access to the computer. Or there's actually 15 centres across Birmingham where you could go in and use one of their computers, or they will help you do it. In fact, if I just share my screen now, I have actually got, I'll just put, if I open, I think that's I'm probably just showing you my screen as I'm looking now. I'll come out of that actually. I'll just go to the right page, sorry. So here we go. So if you can all see, if that's come up for you, hopefully. Can you see? Can you see that? It's black on my screen.
It's disappeared, Rachel.
So look.
There we go. It's back now. Thanks.
Yeah, I might just keep it in the smaller one and show you. So there's guides in various languages on our website, census.gov.uk. We've got the Twitter account at census_south with lots of information as well if you are on Twitter. There's 15 support centres, which I'll briefly show you some of them, and you can phone them to book an appointment. You can go in to use a computer. There's the main helpline, which is the 0800 141 2021 number, and that again, they can do the census over the phone for you if you have problems accessing Wi-Fi or computers, or you really don't feel confident filling out a form. And there's also this language translation line where they can organise a translator, because Birmingham's really diverse. We understand there's lots of languages, so if you have got a problem, call that number. And there's text relay services on the website. There's also, it's screen reader friendly, and there's lots more information. And we can also organise, me and my team, that we do some sort of virtual help or we try and get information to you that can actually help you out if you need it. So these are some of the 15 centres. They're spread across the city, and you can book an appointment with them. So there's quite a few there. But if you did want to find one, this is the census website. So the code that you got in the letter in the post had a code in it, and you just press start census, put in your code, and it takes you through. If you've lost that letter, you can just press this button here, don't have a code, and it'll go through. You'll put in your address, and if you want to receive the new code by text, which is immediate, or they'll send you another letter out with another code. Again, if you don't have the internet, then don't worry, because you can phone up those numbers and they'll organise another code for you. But if you scroll down, here's the support. There's languages that has lots of translations, accessible formats, just any help that you need, really. And this bit here, find a census support centre. If you click on there, and there's this big button, find a support centre, you can put in any postcode. So if we just put one from Birmingham, it's not actually Bartley Green, I'm afraid, but that will bring up one of the nearest to you, whichever postcode you have, and the phone number to ring and how to book. And it also brings up other ones that are nearby. So really just trying to sort of say, there's lots of help, and if you've got any questions as well, please ask me. I'll leave my email in the chat as well. But you have got a few weeks. You'll start to get reminder letters after that. And so we're just doing everything possible to make sure it's a success, because it's only every 10 years, and this information will be used to plan public services for the next decade. So it's going to help you, your children, and your community. But are there any questions or? Oh, I can't. I think the sound's off there, Councillor.
Councillor, you're on mute. Thank you.
Oh, yep, got you. Yes, yeah. That was my fault. It wasn't the laptop. Well, thank you very much for that. So we know, don't we, that there are people still without a laptop or a computer, and we do also know that there are people that can't use it if they have got it very well. So obviously the paper one would be certainly of help, and you can send off for a paper one by going on the laptop. Yes.
Yeah, well, there are different ways that everything's on the laptop, unfortunately, but you can phone those numbers and request one, and there's actually a special, I've got the number here in front of me. If you want to request a paper form, and I'll put it in the chat as well, you call 0800 876 6276. That's another number just for paper requests, or you can phone that main 0800 number, 0800 141 2021 as well, and they will make sure you get a paper copy. So anybody who needs a paper copy can get one.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone would like to ask a question of Alison? She's been very good. Oh, I think everyone's satisfied, Alison.
But well, I've just put my email address as well there, and honestly, like if even it's just one individual who needs a bit of extra help, let me know, because every single person counts, and if you get in touch with me, we will sort that out.
That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye bye. Next item, following Alison's presentation, is Stennis Park Improvements and Future Parks Accelerator. I think, have we still got you there, Sue?
I am, yes.
Okay. Would you like to give us, first of all, a report on the long-awaited progress on Stennis Park improvements? And also, could you follow on with the park accelerators, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most people are aware that There's a proposal for Senley's Park to replace the changing pavilion, and hopefully a lot of you have over the last few weeks seen the planning application that's been put on the planning portal, and I'm pretty sure we've started getting quite a bit of feedback back on those proposals. We've had some feedback from key stakeholders as well, such as Sport England and the police. So it's great. So that's a real progress. Originally we were looking at a modular build design, but if you've seen the planning documents, you'll see that actually what we're looking at now is a traditional build. That's on the back of carrying out options appraisals last year with Property Services and Civico, where they identified that the modular build was seen to be potentially too vulnerable for that location, and also it was coming in at a higher cost. So we're looking at a traditional block built building with I think a brick fascia, which should look really nice. That's assuming we get planning consent and it all goes ahead. In terms of time scale, and I'm making assumptions that everything is going fine without major difficulties. So everything obviously is subject to a large pinch of salt, but depending on how different phases go. But if everything goes according to plan, by the end of June we should have completed the tender process for the build and have a main contractor selected. By mid-September, and that's this year, so mid-September we would hopefully achieve cabinet member approval for the full business case, and at that stage we can actually appoint the contractor, and then following a lead-in period where the contractor gears up, we could potentially be on site to start the build in November of this year, and then that we would be looking at a build for the next 6 months or so, with a practical completion potentially next summer, June, July, with a September 2022 opening. And that's the programme that we are currently working to, and that would be fantastic if we can achieve that. Obviously, with all these sorts of things, there are unknowns which might influence that, but fingers crossed. And associated with that, we are working on development improvements for the pitches on site as well. And the idea is that we could try and tie the whole lot up together so that we have everything up and running for a big formal opening in 2022. At the moment, we are developing a programme of works for the pitches. We have to satisfy Sport England and the football foundations in terms of what we're proposing, and once they sign that off, they will also then sign off on a planning objection against some Section 106 monies which have been earmarked for those works. That's monies that are coming off the BMHT development at Long Nuke Road. So we're just fine-tuning the proposals to get them to try and sign that off, and then subject to that, we would hope to be on site delivering the pitch works later on this year, later autumn time ideally, and then that would give the pitches a reasonable amount of time to bed in prior to a formal opening again with the new football season the following year. Just to advise, because I'm sure somebody would ask this question, but I'm just going to preempt that question. It's come up with the police have asked specifically about what we're intending to do with the old pavilion. So the old pavilion has been identified for demolition because it's really uneconomical to do anything with it, and it is so vulnerable in the middle of that site, as we've all seen over the last few years. So demolition is something that the service has to cover the costs of. So that's the Parks Service. And it is identified as a priority, and subject to funding being approved, I would hope that we will get that building demolished this coming financial year. It's just subject to budgets. It's too early for me to say at the moment because we're just in close down for the current financial year, and I don't know what budget situation will be next financial year yet. But as soon as I've got some assurity, obviously I'll let you know. Is there anything anybody wants to ask me about that information?
Yeah, before I call people in, which I think there'll be a great deal of interest, Sue, why has it taken so long? I think this is about between 12 and 18 months behind. Do we blame that on the COVID?
I think COVID has had a bit of an influence on everything that's happened over the last 12 months, but in the background, I think Leslie Steele has advised you of the process and the reporting process that we have to go through, which is quite complex, but also it appeared for this year that there seems to be some additional processes that you have to go through to get a project of this size signed off, and there was some reviews carried out as part of that process. Like I said, initially we were looking at modular build, and then that was we were asked to revisit that, and on the back of that an options appraisal was carried out. So things like that did add to the timescale that it took to get things through.
You will remember that I was given a promise that last June everything would be hunky-dory, but it's not worked out that way. With the report that you have sent the councillors, you mentioned the monies, because the city isn't paying for any of this, of course. It's coming from planning gain. We've got 50,000 from Lordswood, and now we've got 150,000 from the Long Nuke Road development. But of course, on top of that, there's a Ravenhays, which is £804,735. Now, I've reckoned that up, and with the costs, the estimated costs, we're actually in credit by about £250,000. Now, actually, it's £240,000. So, can I ask, therefore, where that £240,000 is going? Will it be reinvested into where it's supposed to be, Sandys Park, or is it going to disappear like the Asda money?
I would have to say, Councillor, that I'm not aware of there being that amount. So what I would have to do is, if you'll bear with me, I'll refer that back to Leslie Steele, who's the project manager. I was under the impression that the build.
They are figures that you gave me last year and figures that you've given me this year. But you said that there may be an extra cost. The feasibility study was £14,700. Has that figure increased?
No, but what I would say is, if I can have some time to revisit the figures with the project manager, which is Leslie Steele, because the figures that were provided before were exactly what you've quoted in terms of the Ravenhurst monies, and as my understanding is that the bulk of that will go on the pavilion, and that there wouldn't be an underspend on that. And then the other two accounts, which are 50k from Lordswood School, which I believe I mentioned to War Committee at the last briefing note that I gave. That's earmarked for the junior pitches, and then the 150 is something that's come in more recently on the back of that Long Nuke Road development.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm aware, there isn't any underspend. It's all allocated. But I'm perfectly.
I'm sorry, but the estimate was 750,000, and the monies that have been accumulated was just over £1 million, with £14,700 for the feasibility study. Those are my figures. Maybe you can supply me with the up-to-date ones, and I can let the residents know exactly where the money's going. Is that all right?
Yes, I'm certainly happy to do that. No problem at all.
Thank you very much. Just to let the people know that. Is there any questions for Sue, please? Oh, right. Well, we are moving, you know, as slow as it may be. Okay. Well, Sue, thank you. Can we then move on to the Future Parks Accelerator, please?
Yeah. Can I just ask? Has anybody been to Ward Committee before to talk about? Is this a new topic to people? Do people have had it presented to them already?
Are you asking me or asking the people?
Well, I'm asking. Well, if it's
I'm the chairman of this meeting, Sue. Would you refer your questions to me, please?
Yeah.
I'll be much obliged. Thank you. The answer is no.
No. Okay, that's great. It's just so I know, you know, how to where to start, really. So Future Parks Accelerator. This is a countrywide initiative, and Birmingham is one of 8 urban areas which have been fortunate to be able to take part in this. It's a multi-million-pound initiative which has been formed jointly by the National Trust, the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and the Ministry for Communities, Housing and Local Government. And it's been put together on the back of many, many years of investigations and research into parks and the gradual decline of parks, and also how important they are to people's everyday lives, health, well-being, economy, and a whole gamut of things which we as part of our lives. And the idea is that each of these individual local authorities have their own projects, and they are looking at a very far-reaching ways of innovating ideas in order to safeguard parks and open spaces for the future. So it's not just about looking at funding, how we can fund maintenance and development of parks. It's really trying to go that much further than that and try and look at addressing other means of helping to keep our parks and open spaces doing what they need to do for all the community. So in Birmingham, it's being called Naturally Birmingham, and this kind of ties in very much with the core values for the council, where we're looking at nature at being at the heart of many parts of Birmingham citizens' lives. Like I said, there's some information. I've given Bev the web link for the site, and I could highly recommend that anybody has a look at that. It's got a huge amount of information, all the background, but also a lot of amount of detail about all the individual focus areas. I would probably need to be here for more than an hour to try and talk through it, but probably I wouldn't be the best person. Hamira, who is the lead officer, would probably be the best person to invite if you wanted somebody to talk into it in greater detail. I'm one of the parks officers, and I'm kind of a participant in the whole process. But we've got 4 pilot areas around which the core values extend. We've got the Children's Trust, which is about focusing on engagement with children, boosting children's experiences of parks and open spaces, and embedding parks and open spaces in their lives. And the focus on that is a site called Dorbury Fields in Kings Heath, and together with other sites. We've also got a housing focus, which is looking at various new developments, including the development around Edgbaston Reservoir. And it's very closely working with Birmingham Municipal Housing Trust to look at enabling the community to get involved with development proposals at the earliest possible stage, so that they can be involved in the decision-making factors and also in the whole planning side of how they want their housing estates to work with their local open spaces. We've also got a health and wellbeing pilot, which is focusing around Whitton Lakes, and that's very much around exercise, prescription, community participation and empowerment, with very much a health focus, and also community engagement. And we've also got a jobs and skills pilot, which is focusing at Ward End Park, but none of these pilots are just looking at individual sites. They are very broad reaching, and the main focus is about engaging with all the different departments within the council to embed the value of parks and open spaces in whatever discipline is relevant. So it is a very wide-reaching project. One of the key areas is about community engagement and community participation. And Hamira has provided some information which we can send out to people. We will provide the link to, which is about a Green Champions programme. And this is looking for passionate people who are passionate about open spaces, nature, wildlife, what you come to expect from parks and open spaces, who might want to get involved with the project and actually be a green champion and be a force for helping other people understand what's out there and engage with their public spaces better, and enabling more people to participate. So it's a massive project, very wide ranging, and I can only really give you a snapshot. I would recommend that people have a look at the website, or if we can provide the information in a different format. If you ask what the format that you need, I can certainly follow that up for you. And then specifically, there's this Green Champions programme, which, like I said, is open to anybody who is interested. We've got parks officers, we've got people from the Environment Agency, we've got friends groups, we've got people from just local residents, all sorts of people who are signing up to become a green champion. So if anybody's interested, we can provide you with the information.
Thank you, Sue. I think we're all green champions. We're in Bartley Green. There's a little clue there. Bruce, do you want to speak? Bruce, you wanted to ask a question of Sue?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Sue. I do know a little bit about this part, Accelerator, but I was on the understanding, maybe I've got this wrong, I don't know, I was on the understanding that this was about setting up major projects in areas around the city. Well, I know it's around the country, but around the city in particular, to, like you said, protect and invest in areas so that they can be used by the public for all the reasons, health and well-being and all the rest of it, like you said. What you've just explained to me, or the impression I've just got there, that this is about setting up communication groups with various council departments and organisations, which should be happening anyway. Because the greatest threat to our green and open spaces in the city is the city council selling them off at the moment, to be honest with you. Just a couple of points there, if you could answer them for me, sir.
Well, I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% sure what I can say. It's wide ranging. It's looking at the whole natural capital of Birmingham. So it's not, the project itself is looking at the way forward so that parks and open spaces, the green infrastructure is funded properly, and how we fund it may well change in the future. With funding, sustainable finance is a key element of what they're looking at. And we're 12 months into the project, so we're a long way off final stages and final proposals. I'm aware that they are looking at one model of a parks foundation, which has been adopted by other local authorities and also other countries. They're also looking at a project which is to look at developing a green website, which would sit alongside the City Council's website, but would be a first point of contact for people who are Googling Birmingham parks, so that they would have something a bit more, I don't know how to describe it, touristy, but something a bit more functional and informative, which isn't necessarily what we're getting from the City Council's website at the moment. So it's not, so the project itself isn't looking at funding major improvements or projects on the ground. It's really about how the City Council embeds parks and green spaces at the heart of all the different service areas, to protect and that, so that we all, and so everybody sees the value of it going forward, and the way that it's funded becomes a much more sustainable future for parks.
Sue, I think we need a little more clarity on this, don't we? Is there anyone that is actually up to speed with this, what's it called again? A Future Parks Accelerator that we can invite to the meeting? We are blessed here, you know, in Bartley Green. We have 3 wonderful parks, and we have lots of people that get involved with help and assistance and to keeping those parks as well in reasonable condition. The only problem that we've got, of course, with all of them is antisocial behaviour. And you did mention earlier on that safeguarding our parks. Well, wouldn't locking of gates be assistance with trying to help in that respect?
Yes, and we do have a gate locking programme, and we are currently looking at formalising that, outsourcing that in a different way so it can be managed. The problem we've had over COVID is similar problems to anybody who's dealing with COVID, is that we've had massive shortages in staff, and so we haven't been able to lock all the gates that we would normally lock. Also, early on, right at the outset last year, the decision was made by the environmental cell that gate locking would cease temporarily. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. There was obviously lots of issues, but that decision was taken right at the outset. That since has changed, and we have tried to implement gate locking, but we have got problems. We've got people who are shielding. We've got people who have had COVID, and the problems that we've had lots of problems trying to deal with increased levels of antisocial behaviour, where we've tried to lock gates, especially at our strategic sites like the Lickeys and Sutton, even Woodgate. We've had issues with trying to secure sites, and we're not resourced, and we don't have staff who are trained in dealing and tackling with that level of antisocial behaviour, which we have experienced, and which is a concern as we're going into the main season as to what we will get again this coming summer. So yeah, I agree with you. Gate locking, if we can get the gate locking happening routinely on a daily basis, that would be fantastic.
But why can't you do it? Because of COVID?
Well, I've just explained we've got staffing issues because of COVID.
Well, if you give me the keys, I'll go and lock the blooming gates, because St Leys Park, for people who live on the outskirts of St Leys Park, they are suffering terribly with intruders at all hours of the night, evening and the night. And I would have thought that with my complaints, both to you and the cabinet member, who doesn't really seem to care very much anyway, that we can overcome that. And the motorbikes and the cars and the prostitution and drug taking in our prized assets is not to be sneered at or excused for. I think action should be taken. I don't see why you can't do that. Would it affect anyone on their own to go and lock the gates up? I don't think so. Do you share my concerns?
I share concerns about the issues that are going on in parks, and I would hope that the police, if people are calling the police, then some of this criminal activity, then the police are helping out by attending sites, especially with some of those issues. it's not, I wouldn't condone individuals going out to lock sites. We've had it, I mean, at the end of the day, individuals who aren't employed by the council are not covered by our insurance, but we've also had lots of issues. We've had people attacked, our staff. So, you know, we have to be mindful of everything, and I really do sympathise, but it is there is a bigger picture to it, and what we are trying to do within parks, we're going through a process at the moment of outsourcing gate locking, so that it's not those issues of trying to source something with a depleted workforce should go away in the future as soon as we've got that contract in place. So but I'll certainly take your comments back to the senior officers and the cabinet member. No problem.
Well, the cabinet member, when I complained to him, was rather defensive. Obviously, he didn't want to upset his friends wherever they are. But I mean, we're not safeguarding the parks that we have, and that is not good enough. It can only get worse. And also the police do try, but you know, it's still our parks owned by the citizens of Birmingham in the hands of Birmingham City Council parks to ensure that we are kept in a good condition and kept free from that sort of behaviour. We are going to build on St Leys Park. We are going to invest in the future of St Leys Park. I fear not a penny from the City Council. All that money is coming from the developments in the area. But I am fearful that the vandalism, if it continues, I fear for the future of our new facilities in St Leys Park and elsewhere. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question of Sue Amy? Maybe I've said it all. Okay. Thank you, Sue. Thank you very much for attending this evening. I'm sure you'll take back with you our thoughts and concerns.
Okay, thanks very much.
Is there someone's hand up? Hello? Put your hand down. Okay.
There's no one wanted to speak.
Sorry?
Sorry, Councillor. Yeah, there's no one with a hand up or wanted to ask a question.
They did have. Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next. The next item is a Commonwealth Games celebration and community fund. That's quite an exciting time for Bartley Green, and we're very fortunate. We've got a ward support specialist who's Kerry Brewer, and she's with us this evening. Would you like to show yourself, Kerry, and give your contact number?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, all. I'm sorry. Done it.
Okay.
Done, sorted.
Are we there? Houston, we have a problem. No,
we can hear you now, Councillor. So do you want to carry on? Kerry, do you want to carry on?
Okay, Kerry.
Yeah, done.
Thank
Right,
you.
I'm sure you are aware and seen Perry the Patchwork Bull, who is the mascot for the Commonwealth Games. It's part of celebrating communities in every ward across Birmingham. It's part of the hosting of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. The fund has been established to help communities carry out more localised activities such as street parties, picnics, community celebrations, and the aim is to excite communities and to drive local level engagement and to use the games as a catalyst to celebrate Birmingham's local diverse history. Now, the funding is open to any group any groups, any residents within the ward. They can hold a street party, a litter pick, they can plant bulbs, plant trees. There are 3 main elements to it. There's a get active, ready, steady fun, and celebrating culture. There are key dates for the rounds. Round 1 applications will be taken between March and June and reviewed July to September and then commence in October. And then round 2 applications are between October and January, reviewed February, March, and will commence April 2022. The application process is you go onto Birmingham Council website, put in your application of what you want to do, what you'd like to do. The application then goes to the City Council, they will review it. And then the application then will come back to ward forum meetings for the councillors and local residents decide if they're happy for the celebrations to go ahead and the money to be spent on a specific thing. It must be inclusive to all ages. Everybody is going to go out to schools, churches, and just anybody locally. So if you want to get involved, you can contact me via the Facebook pages, Holloway Hall, Bartley Green Library and Community Hub, or Marlborough Call as well for more information.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions? Hello. Oh dear, you started rather well, I thought. Is there any questions anyone would like to ask Cllr? No? You're all being very well behaved tonight. No? Okay. Thank you, Cllr. Thank you very much indeed. We have, I think, Stuart from Cllr Highways this evening. Stuart, are you there?
Yes, good evening, Councillor. Good evening, all.
Thank you.
Yep, okay, yep. So, Stuart Ross, Highway Stuart.
We have a sound problem. Hold on. We have a... Stuart?
Yes, yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, got you.
Okay, yep. So, hopefully, you'll hear me. Stuart Ross, Highway Steward for Cllr Highways. Cllr are the interim service provider for Birmingham Highways. So I've got a quick slide I'd like to share with you guys. It won't be too long, I promise. So bear with me for a second. Just share my screen with you all. Okay, hopefully you can see that, Councillor. Is that on the screen?
No, Stuart.
No, you've frozen, Stuart.
Oh dear. Okay, I'll take that off. Let's try that one more time. Let's try that one more time. Let's have a look. How's that? Any better?
No. Yes, Stuart. Yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bev. Okay, yep. So as I say, with the interim service provider started in April last year, and it's an interim contract, and got some details there from what we've done so far. So from April up until December, there's been some major investment within the network. So far, about £19 million has been spent on carriageway and footway works. So you're talking roughly about 81,000 carriageway repairs, 24,000 footway repairs. We've also installed about 8,000 street lights, and obviously gullies cleansed as well. 50,000 gullies have been cleansed. We did a tree planting, we did a weed spraying, and everything else in between. So just a few details there from what we've done so far. That was up to December this year. So as I say, so far £19 million have been spent up until December. There's another £32 million being spent from December till June this year on footway and carriageway schemes. I'll stop presenting for a second if you bear with me. Right, hold on. Okay, yeah, so stop presenting there. So just in regards to Bartley Green, obviously the most pressing matter tonight, there's a few schemes that I'm sure you guys have seen already out there. So one of the main ones, obviously Woodgate Lane, that was done over Christmas time, the footways up there. We've also done carriageway work in Dunedin Road, Hollister Drive, Linton Lane, also Dunedin Road, the footways there as well. And we've also got some work coming up in the future. So we've got some more carriageway work on Carter's Lane, Lloyd Close, Hillwood Road, and also some footway work may have started already, Giddings Lane and also Hasby Road as well. That's going to be happening later this year. So that's the intermediate programme up until June. Then from June onwards, there will be some more bidder schemes that are yet to be finalised, but I'm sure when they are, they'll be shared obviously with your councillor, who can share the good news with you guys as well. So that's where we are so far. A little bit more, just a bit more background information. Obviously, throughout the COVID restrictions, with a key worker status with what we have, we've managed to continue delivering this service. Obviously, you know, with social distancing in mind, and similar to what Sue said, there are challenges in delivering that service, but I'm happy that's continued. And I think the main thing for me, one of the main things, apart from obviously the work, is we've built some good, strong relationships between Cllr and obviously the elected members and the officers at BCC as well. So it's been a tough 12 months, but I'm glad to say it started off really well, and obviously look forward to continuing on to the future. So any questions, councillors? Any more information to give you at all? Or?
Thank you, Stuart the Steward, for that. Yes, I think our list as elected members, potholes.
Yes.
When are you going to spend some of the money on those?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we obviously, first of all, if there is a pothole that you see out there, there's two ways that's taken care of. Obviously, we've got a team of inspectors. You've got an inspector, is Mr. Cooper. He's local to Bartley Green, lives in Bartley Green, so he takes great pride in inspecting the roads. But also, if anyone does see a pothole, you can obviously report that, and we can have a team on site that day to do a temporary repair.
Stuart, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. I know. It's been a long winter. It's been a long winter, councillor, to be honest.
You can spot them, Stuart. They're full of water.
No, I know what you mean, indeed. But yeah, it hasn't helped. I mean, it's no excuse, but it has been a long winter. So we always have more potholes than the rest of the year from March and April. But yeah, we do have teams, obviously, emergency teams on the network carrying out repairs. And when we do raise a job, the good thing about the Cllr contract is, as soon as we see a pothole, we raise that job, there is a guarantee that will be done within 6 months as an absolute maximum time. But yeah, we're on it, put it that way, we're definitely on it for you, councillor. So most importantly, if residents do have an issue, obviously speak to yourself, but if we go to birmingham.gov, log it on there, we'll get an inspector or a team on site within up to 5 days, so no issue there for you.
Thank you, Stuart. Is there any questions for Stuart, please? Councillor Bruce Lyons, you only Councillor Bruce Lyons. Carry on.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, councillor. Yeah.
Stuart, thank you for being here this evening. I'd just like to say that we have noticed big changes since Cllr took over the contracts last year. I can't remember what it was. We've seen a lot of work done around Bartley Green, and obviously, of course, we always want a lot more as well. Just as has been alluded to, we have got a large number of potholes, which I'm sure is a problem throughout the city. We have got a number of roads that really do need resurfacing, obviously in our opinion quite urgently. We don't seem to have had any large schemes around Bartley Green for road servicing. Is there any particular reason for that, or is there some plans in the very near future for areas to be done?
Yeah, I think there's two options. I mean, I did mention we have done obviously a few. There has been some carriageway work done already. I would recommend, I mean, the programme that has been delivered, obviously, it's an interim programme, and that was from April last year till June this year. I would recommend speaking to Marie Brown to give your suggestions. Obviously, there are roads that we have the data on that we could say, yep, you know, this has failed or that's failed, etc., which will help drive a program. But I would also recommend speaking to maybe Marie Brown on that, and she can put those suggestions forward again for future network schemes. I don't have the data to hand, but I did recommend a few footways and carriageways. I mentioned about your inspector. I did speak to him. It's always good to have that local knowledge, and I asked him for recommendations where he felt there was a pressing need. So I forwarded my recommendations on his advice, really. But I'd always recommend speaking to Maureen, you know, in the first instance, and she definitely, raise that to where it needs to go. Really, that would be, you know, certainly a good starting point, I'll suggest, if that helps.
Thank you for that, Stuart. There doesn't seem to be anyone wants to ask you any more questions, so you've got off quite lightly.
Okay.
Enjoy it when you can. There's Andy Hyde. Did you want to speak?
Hello, Councillor Lyons. You okay?
Hello. Did you want to put a question?
Yes, please, if you don't mind, Councillor. Oh, sorry, not to the guy. It's a separate incident I've been receiving in Bartley Green myself. Is that okay?
Sorry, can you speak up?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not a question
fine.
to this man. It's is this highways?
Yes, yes.
You want to speak on any other business?
It's on any other business, sorry. Is that later on?
Okay, it's the next item.
Okay, I'm sorry, Councillor Lyons. I'll speak in a bit.
Okay. Stuart, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, Councillor, always a pleasure, and yeah, hopefully see you in person soon. Can't wait.
Well, I hope the next meeting will be normal.
Yes, yeah. I think it serves a purpose, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the ward meetings again. I can't wait, to be honest. Okay,
well, but be careful of those potholes on the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Right, we're on residents, any other business, community groups, etc. I'll bring you in now, Andy.
Sorry about that, Councillor Lyons.
That's all right. That's fine.
I do apologise.
Carry on.
I have got a bit of a moan. I do apologise. Obviously, I own the shop on 1 Lutley Grove, Shelley Streets. I've been having a bit of an argument with Birmingham City Council regarding, believe it or not, a litter bin right outside my shop. It's right outside the front door of my shop, and all I'm trying to do is remove the bin, because what's happening is the dog walkers are, the horrible thing is that they're putting the poo in the bin outside the shop. So I've logged a complaint with Birmingham City Council on the Brum account, and I've asked them to not even remove the bin, but put a dog poo bin by the telephone box on Adams Hill, and I've had no reply really. So I've been on live chat with them, and they've said they'll contact the highways, and I've had no response, and this has been going on now for well over 16 months. And every time I phone up, they say I have to contact the highways. So I try and contact the highways, and nobody gets back to me. So I've tried numerous ways, and I have been trying really hard, Councillor Lyons, to get this moved, because I see it as a bad thing for my shop. Because obviously, in Bartley Green now, with it being a food shop, with selling sweets and children coming into the shop, I don't want the people coming in to put dog poo outside my shop. So I've been trying, and I've tried, and I've the same council now, I do apologise, have now phoned my shop. This was the Environmental Health, have phoned my shop and said they've had a complaint about people putting dog poo in the bin outside my shop. The same council that I'm trying to get to put the bin out of the way of my shop. So now I've had to get the key off the council people who are now refusing to empty the bin because the people are putting dog poo in the bin and they will not empty it, the council, because the environmental health will not empty it because dog poo is going in the bin. So I've had to ask the local people who empty it, which is the Birmingham Council. They've kindly given me a key to the bin outside my shop, which I do not want there. They've given me a key so I can empty it daily and take it away to empty it myself. So I don't know where to go, Councillor Lyons. I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. A litter bin in the front of your shop, probably.
Yes.
I don't know. Okay, well, obviously, I do know where it is, and it is very close to your shop.
In fact, I've got pictures.
Know that
it's actually 1.6
we know it's a food shop.
Centimetres.
I don't understand where the highways come into this. If Marie Brown was with us this evening, she always attends a meeting. But if she was here this evening, obviously she'd probably tell us, well, no, that's the environmental department's responsibility, and we'll get on to them. So that's what we'll do. We'll try and get it sorted out. But it is a very popular dog walk from one part of the valley and to Bartley Green. Beverly, are you listening?
I certainly am, Councillor.
Okay. Can we get in touch with the environmental department and try and get someone to accept responsibility? It's not good, and thank goodness we've got a local resident that actually cares about what's going on, and they're emptying the bin for them.
Can I just ask, Councillor, can the gentleman in question send me an email, because then I've got all the information.
I've got that here. I will send it to you, Bev.
Yes, please send me all the information by email, and then I can deal with it then. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. All I'm trying to do is run a business, and without getting complaints, I'm trying to get ahead of the game with the Birmingham City Council, and now sending me back complaints from public, and I'm only trying to help the situation myself.
Okay, it's not easy, as you probably gather now. So we'll try and get the thing sorted out once and for all.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lyons.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone with any items to raise?
Councillor Lyons has got his hands up. Councillor Bruce has got his hands up. Councillor Lyons.
I can't. It's not something. Oh, it's coming on late. Can you sort this out for us, Beverly, please? I'm getting late responses. Yes, I've got you. Okay, Bruce, carry on.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of issues that I'd like to raise. Unfortunately, we haven't got any officers from the relevant department, but the one in particular, which was I raised at the ward forum meeting, I think it was a year ago, and it was regarding the new bus terminus, if you like, outside Newman College, the bus stop at the end of the reservoir, Jenner's Lane there. Occasionally there are 2, 3 and sometimes 4 buses parked there at a time, and it is on a blind bend. Now, I am aware, since I've raised this concern of safety, there has been a number of accidents there, and there has been one incident where somebody was seriously injured. Now, I know that Marie was looking into this, but I think it needs addressing as a matter of urgency, whether some arrangement is made with more of a permanent type bus stop, or even relocating to the other side of the reservoir at Bangham Pit, where there is already a bus terminus that is not in use at the moment. So that's the first issue, Chairman. The second issue is regarding Longnew Road, and we have an issue with fly tipping in a number of places in Bartley Green, and obviously there's a number of reasons for that. No excuses for it, but a lot of reasons behind it. Apart from the fact that it's very difficult for residents to dispose of any bulky rubbish. There is rubbish dumped along this road. Apart from avoiding the potholes, you're avoiding the rubbish that's dumped along it as well. And it seems to have spread from top to bottom. And I think it's the broken window effect, where one resident does it, gets away with it, and everybody else has followed suit. Can we get something moving on this one? It's going to be a cross department challenge, this is, and it needs nipping in the bud.
Can you just repeat the road again?
Longnew Road. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. In Longnew Road, we have a mixed tenure there. On the one side, we have mainly housing association, and I believe there's at least 3 varieties who do appear to have a problem with managing both the properties and the tenants. And I have got a meeting with housing tomorrow, and I'm hoping we can sort out who are the housing associations that have a sort of a carefree attitude. A similar situation in Bang and Pit, and hopefully we're addressing that, where it appears that the housing associations are not exactly acting responsibly with regard to the action of their tenants. We have had a success with the environmental department in Scotland Lane, and for anyone that's been along there just lately, we've had great support from the environmental department in cleaning the rubbish which people leave behind when they're enjoying the beautiful view of Bromwich Wood and the reservoir and so on, and leave their rubbish there. But we have got some signs up, and we are doing a lot of other things, and I know Kerry's been very good, very active with the local residents in regularly cleaning up, and I think it had become, like you said, Bruce, the broken window effect, but hopefully that will be a thing of the past. But we'll see. We can only hope. Thank you very much. Is there any other item members residents wish to raise? No, I can't see any yellow hands in the air, so I can only assume that there isn't any. Well, can I thank everyone for attending this very strange meeting, and I look forward to the next one in real life, and we don't have to rely on modern technology to actually talk to each other. We can do it in the time-honoured way. And Beverly, thank you very much. Thanks to the officers that have attended and all the local residents that care. I close the meeting. Thank you.